Chapter 5, Growth Mindset. In the last chapter, we looked at the importance of overcoming fear, even overcoming a fear of death. And similarly, it is equally important to be willing to be uncomfortable and to experience small amounts of hardship. How can you lose weight if you are afraid of dieting? How can you expect to progress in your career if you shy away from hard work? But this is the reality for many of us. We are simply unwilling to do things we don't want to do, or to put up with hard times. We have become exceedingly weak, and it is ultimately making us unhappy. Why we have become weak? Consider your dog and compare them to a wolf. If you don't own a dog, consider one you know. Look at the differences. Your dog might be loving, loyal, and fun, but it is entirely dependent on you. It wouldn't survive a day in the wild, and it's certainly not a warrior like the wolf is. Why not? Because it has been domesticated. And that, my friend, is your problem as well. We have not only become domesticated, but we have also become lazy, spoiled, and overly indulged. In modern society, everything is disposable, everything comes easily, and we never have to wait. Hungry? Order a takeaway. It will be with you in 5 minutes, and it will be packed with salt and sugar, so you feel a rush of reward hormones. Horny? Watch some porn. Bored? Turn on the TV and laugh at someone falling over. Need information? Just ask Siri. Want to get into better shape? Nah, that seems like a lot of effort. Being so constantly indulged in whatever we want means that we find it harder than ever to put in effort when it is needed. Why would we put in effort when we can have so much, so easily? And likewise, when we are used to getting whatever we want, we feel absolutely distraught when the shower doesn't heat up properly. And here's the thing, in the wild, you would have only had cold water to wash in. Eating would have required hunting or foraging in the rain while avoiding predators. You could be so much stronger and so much tougher, mentally and physically. But as we are, we're fat, lazy, and low on motivation. How to get tough? So with that in mind, how do you go about getting tough? The first thing you need to do, is to try living with less. We discussed this already in our post on Stoicism, but traveling is a fantastic way to accomplish the warrior mindset. That means traveling and staying in hostels, not booking hotels the night before, only taking a few clothes. I have been on a few journeys like this myself. I went on a trip around Europe and took only a backpack to get by. I remember lying at a train station in Poland in the snow, unable to read the signposts, despite my Polish heritage, and not knowing when the next train would come. Or even where I was. This was before data roaming or 3G, so that was out of the question too. Then I found a little cafe and managed to order some tea, with milk rather than with a lemon as the Polish generally drink it. You know what? I felt actually bliss drinking from that polystyrene cup. I appreciated the tea so much because it had been so long and because I was so cold. Today, I often ask for my tea in polystyrene cups when it's an option because it sends me back to that moment. And this is what you realize when you force yourself to do without, you learn that the little things can bring you a lot of joy. That there is reward and happiness to be found in every moment. You don't need everything to go perfectly. And in fact, when things go wrong, it creates stories and helps you to grow stronger. Growth mindset. And that's a key point actually, to keep a growth mindset at all times. Each challenge that comes your way is a chance to get stronger, smarter, and better. By dealing with these hardships, your life has greater purpose. Life is meaningless when it is easy, and you become better equipped to take on similar challenges in future. So, the next time you find yourself in debt, instead of letting it defeat you, instead see it as a challenge. How can you earn the money you need to get out of it? How can you become better? Don't wallow in stress or anxiety, that helps no one. See it as a chance to grow and to prevent this happening again and take the necessary steps. Don't worry about how it looks to others, don't blame yourself for letting yourself get into that situation before. Just take action. And learn from it. You were not good enough before, but now you are going to be better. In fact, growth and challenge are things that the brain is actually wired for. We thrive when we are challenged mentally and physically, and this results in the production of hormones like dopamine, brain-derived neurotrophic factor and more that keep us focused and that help protect our brains into old age. Not only should you welcome the challenges that come, you should seek them out. During times of peace, you should prepare for battle by learning, reading books, adopting new skills, and by training your body. Chapter 6, Tools for Growth and Resilience. We've talked a lot about how the warrior mindset involves greater resilience, greater patience, calmness, and strength. But the real question is how you get to that point. How can you gain that warrior mindset? Hopefully by now you understand what the warrior mindset is and what it means in a broader context, but how can you overcome your weaknesses and your urge to eat cake? To relax and to take the easy options. Here are a few powerful tools that will help you to grow and become stronger. Meditation. Meditation is an absolute must for a modern warrior. This is one of the single most powerful tools for transforming your mindset and for giving you the resilience, hardiness and sense of calm you need to choose how you react to your emotions and feelings. Meditation is simply the practice of concentrating your mind, of emptying your brain of thoughts and of learning to avoid distracting ideas and impulses. This takes great mental discipline, and in that sense, it is a perfect tool for training that discipline. Really, concentration is discipline. What's more, is that meditation teaches you to distract from your anxieties, your urges, and your desires. Mindful meditation teaches you to let your thoughts drift by without affecting you, while transcendental clears your mind entirely. This is a great way to calm your physiology when stressed or aroused and to take back control over your thoughts and actions. Those who meditate are calmer and less easily riled, and this frees them to act in the most considered and effective manner. Finally, meditation is a great way to recharge your batteries and gain more energy, which in turn allows you to execute your plans. Seinfeld credits meditation with providing him with endless energy. He says that he would likely still be doing the show and wouldn't have burned out, had he already regularly practiced TM, transcendental meditation. I'll get up at 6 a.m. My kids get up about 6:45 a.m. And so I do the TM before anybody gets. And how does it feel? It doesn't feel like anything. I don't understand it. But here's the difference. At 1 p.m. that day, my head does not hit the decks like it used to. That's the difference. If I didn't do TM that morning and I'm working, then by 1 p.m. I'm shot, and I think most people are. And now, at 1 o'clock, I'm feeling good. I just sail through the day, and then I have my second TM at 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. Correct breathing. Another tool you can use to regain your composure and enter the warrior mindset at will is correct breathing. This means belly breathing, breathing from your diaphragm first and taking deep breaths. This calms your nervous system and puts you into the rest and digest state. It's the perfect way to overcome anxiety. Cold showers. Cold showers increase your metabolism, they help you produce more testosterone, and they cause a flood or adrenaline. They can actually strengthen your immune system too. In other words, they're actually good for you and a great way to start your day. But at the same time, they hurt and they suck. This is a terrible shock to the system, and it's the last thing you want to do. Which is precisely why it is ideal for your warrior training. Taking cold showers requires incredible mental discipline, and if you can force yourself to do this every day, then you can achieve just about anything. And as a fun fact, Hugh Jackman said that he used cold showers as a way to get into the mind of Wolverine for the X-Men movies. Now there's a warrior that you could afford to be more like. Strength training and martial arts. What do all the warriors through history have in common? They are not just mentally tough, although that has been the focus of this book, they are also physically tough. This is very important because physical toughness gives you the strength, the resolve, and the power to be confident and to make a stand when you do need to fight for your values. It is important where possible not to fight, but actually, being formidable physically will help you to avoid the need to fight. Not only that, but it will give you the ability to protect the ones you love. And both martial arts and weightlifting will help you to grow while also instilling great self-discipline. To increase your chances of succeeding on your journey, take up a martial art and endeavor to hit the gym 3 or 4 times a week. As Socrates said, no man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable. Chapter 7, Applying Classic Warrior Principles to Business and Life. I always thought it was something of fashion statement for businessmen and women to carry copies of The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I understood their claim that it was relevant to business strategy and that many of the ideas are still relevant, but it all seemed a bit fanciful to me. More like vanity and posing. How could a 1,000-year-old treatise genuinely be relevant to today's world of computers and mobile phones? That was until I began to practice the warrior mindset and quickly realized that it actually is highly relevant. Sure, it won't teach you to use MS Word, but in terms of marketing, leadership, and the management of resources it is still very useful. These ideas and suggestions are timeless and can be applied in almost limitless situations. Look at it this way, if the advice is good enough to help you win wars with swords and arrows, then surely it can help you to get Bill from accounting to stop complaining. With that in mind, I present some of the best quotes and lessons from the book that you can take with you into the office and us to inspire more loyalty and productivity. And just for good measure, I've thrown in some Machiavelli, who wrote The Prince as an instruction manual for an Italian prince that would help him to become an effective ruler someday. These are both texts aimed at historical warriors and kings, and yet they are coveted by business professionals, relationship gurus, and more. This is the perfect example of why the warrior mindset is still relevant today, and you will see that the sentiments therein echo much of what we have already discussed. Lessons from the Art of War. There is no instance of a nation benefiting from prolonged warfare. In other words, if you are at odds with a competitor or a colleague, then a prolonged struggle will only serve to damage both of you. This is called a Pyrrhic victory, a phrase that comes from another famous historical battle. By the end, even if you win, you will have damaged your reputation and wasted your resources so that you're left with nothing but a Pyrrhic victory. Instead then, see if you can't turn an opponent into an ally and find a way that you both can benefit instead. Remember, the warrior chooses their battles wisely. The warrior mindset is not about being aggressive and reactionary. It is about being poised, forgiving, and powerful enough to not need to lift a finger. This then explains another of Sun Tzu's quotes: the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. This is highly relevant to modern warriors, truer now than ever before. Opportunities multiply as they are seized. If you wanted an example of how the art of war can directly apply to business, then this is it. How much more perfectly could you want this to describe the process of making investments? You have to spend to accumulate. Remember how Arnie chose bodybuilding as a path and a springboard to greater success? You can similarly choose wisely in order to yield incredible results from simple starting points. Know the enemy and know yourself. In 100 battles you will never be in peril. This is an obvious one that rams home the importance of both researching the market, and looking at your own feedback in order to ensure you are best prepared to take on the competition. In case you thought Sun Tzu only glosses over obvious points, though he goes on to expand, when you are ignorant of the enemy, but know yourself, your chances of winning or losing are equal. If ignorant of both your enemy and yourself, you are certain in every battle to be in peril. Outside of the office, we have already discussed how knowing yourself will allow you to form your own rules and your own goals and objectives. The general who advances without coveting fame and retreats without fearing disgrace, whose only thought is to protect his country and do good service for his sovereign, is the jewel of the kingdom. This is the kind of employee you want. Keep an eye on those who bring too much ego to the workplace. This is the kind of employee you need to be. And this perfectly echoes Seneca's views on living with less earlier on. Remember, in this case you are not serving your country or sovereign but the higher purpose and values that you chose for yourself. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. Planning is everything. Before you bring your product or service to market, your success or failure is a foregone conclusion, so make sure you've tested the waters and researched thoroughly. And again, this speaks to the calm and calculated nature of the warrior. The warrior does not rush in headlong, despite their control over their fear. Lessons from the Prince. Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times. This is particularly important to note if you run a large organization and are in danger of resting on your laurels. Be thinking one step ahead at all times if you want to avoid the same fate as Kodak. This echoes the sentiments we discussed earlier too, about being willing to change your principles and adapt where necessary. But this should come from within, not from without. Men ought to be well treated or crushed, because they can avenge themselves of lighter injuries, of more serious ones they cannot. Crushing your opponents and employees may not be encouraged in ethical business. Interestingly, Sun Tzu is actually much more pacifist than Machiavelli, but the point is still valid. Don't make enemies, then give them time to lick their wounds. As far as possible, the warrior should avoid combat and confrontation. They should seek to please everyone and find the most mutually beneficial outcome. However, if you do decide to engage in competition or combat, then you must act with finality. The wise man does at once what the fool does finally. I.e., time is money and indecision is a recipe for failure. Entrepreneurs are simply those who understand that there is little difference between obstacle and opportunity and are able to turn both to their advantage. This is far more literal than you might think. Opening a tin of beans easily, challenge or opportunity. This is similar to the ideas we discussed earlier about seeing challenge as a chance for growth. And how crazy is it to think that Machiavelli might have had such relevant and useful advice for modern entrepreneurs? Yet more proof that the warrior mindset is timeless and just as important today as ever before. Anything can be approached as a warrior. I highly recommend reading these books as part of your evolution and your journey to becoming the best version of yourself. They belong on every warrior's reading list. Chapter 8, Conclusion, Taking a Harder Road. We're reaching the end of our journey together now, but yours is only beginning. It's time to start putting yourself out there, testing yourself, growing, taking on challenges and deciding what's important to you. It's time to stop fretting the small stuff. To cease the creature comforts and to embrace a more challenging and demanding life, because that's where the value comes from and that's what will make you great. But a word of caution before you go, this is going to be tough. You are going to find that sometimes, doing the right thing and ignoring your emotional response means saying things people don't like. Sticking to your principles will mean upsetting the apple cart. Forgetting how you look will lead you to sometimes be shunned. Forgetting physical possessions will leave you sometimes feeling destitute. But if you know yourself truly, if you know your goals, you know what you want and you know the principles you want to live by, then you will know the right things to do and you should have the strength to do them. And that means living with the consequences. And that is the last lesson I want to impart upon you: be willing to face the music. Be willing to put yourself out there, take risks and then face the flack that comes your way. This all follows on from the lessons on stoicism, minimalism, and fear that we have already considered. But it is highly important. As soon as you learn that sometimes you'll get things wrong, and you accept and learn to deal with the outcome, you'll find that you become a more decisive and more efficient individual. People who are afraid to make the wrong choice and who don't want to upset anyone will never be able to make decisions. They'll always be on the fence and they will lack conviction. That's not you. You are a warrior, and that means you need to follow your own path and face the consequences as a mature adult. You will ask for forgiveness and not permission. And if you don't get it, as long as you have done what's right by you, then you forge ahead anyway. You are the warrior.